There are specific pieces in there that are meant to serve as a bridge for the American people, including a large percentage of it that's for unemployment insurance, funding for vaccine distribution, something that is pivotal, as we've already been discussing here today, for reopening of schools.
That is White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki outlining the impact of President Biden's executive orders targeting the pandemic and the economic problems it has caused. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for watching. I'm Katie Moore.
And I'm Sharice Gibson. President Joe Biden has signed 30 executive orders, and it means more help for the millions struggling financially.
Devin Bartolotta has the breakdown for us, taking a look at the orders that will impact us first.
Unemployed, behind on rent, or struggling to get by, President Joe Biden's second full day in office focused on pandemic assistance. Among his executive orders signed Friday, he asks the Treasury Department to consider changing its delivery structure to streamline direct payments. He asks the Department of Agriculture to expand SNAP benefits, calls on the Department of Veterans Affairs to consider pausing collections on debts, and asks the Department of Labor to grant unemployment insurance for workers who refuse unsafe working conditions. These orders go hand in hand with Biden's $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan. That includes a third round of stimulus checks, $1,400 for most Americans. It provides rental assistance and extends the eviction and foreclosure moratorium. And while extending unemployment benefits, it ups the minimum wage to $15 an hour.
We're in a national emergency. We need to act like we're in a national emergency. So we've got to move.
It all could not come soon enough for thousands of people in Louisiana. In just the first 3 weeks of 2021, the Louisiana Workforce Commission paid out $251.5 million in unemployment benefits, nearly $85 million in just the last week. And while there are some Republicans who are expected to push back against the high price tag, the Biden administration says there is room for negotiation.
He wants to work with Democrats and Republicans to address the crises that the American people are facing. So part of the discussion we'll be having with members is what do you want to cut?
Some economists believe best case scenario, the bill would be passed by mid-February and there would be cash in Americans' bank accounts by late February. Others say don't count on it until early April. Devin Bartolotta, Eyewitness News.